The night had a way of stretching time, especially in places where the silence was so thick, you could almost hear your own heartbeat echo off the walls. The dead of night is when the strange and unexplained often chooses to surface, when the familiar turns unfamiliar, and reality blurs just enough for horror to slip through the cracks. Casey Donaldson was no stranger to working late. As a hospital security guard in upstate New York, he had grown used to walking the quiet, fluorescent-lit corridors after midnight. On one particular night in November, the hospital was unusually silent, more so than usual. No emergency calls, no staff chatter, just the low hum of vending machines and flickering hallway lights. Around 2:47 a.m., Casey was doing his routine patrol when the security camera started glitching. The feed to the pediatric wing began to flicker between static and blackness. He radioed the front desk and asked if any maintenance had been scheduled for that section, but they confirmed nothing was planned. Curious and a bit uneasy, he took the elevator to the third floor. The pediatric wing had been recently renovated, but that night it felt ancient, like something forgotten. As he walked past room 312, the temperature dropped significantly. Casey paused. Something about the silence felt weighted, heavy. He looked through the small window into the empty room. The bed was neatly made, equipment unplugged. Then, in the reflection of the glass, he saw a small figure standing behind him. He whipped around, hand on his flashlight, but there was no one there. His breath fogged in front of him. He checked the hallway empty. He turned back to the window and again saw the faint outline of a child. He burst into the room. Nothing. Just the hum of machines and the ticking of a wall clock. Back at the security office, he reviewed the footage. At 2:49 a.m., the hallway camera outside room 312 showed a small figure in a hospital gown walk past the door. It stopped, turned, and looked directly at the camera. Its face was blurred, almost pixelated, like the image refused to resolve. At 2:51, the figure vanished into the wall. Casey reported it, but the hospital brushed it off, suggesting it was a prank or equipment error. But the pediatric wing was sealed for renovations. No patients had been admitted there for weeks. After that night, Casey refused to patrol that floor alone. On the other side of the country, in a quiet part of Oregon, Emily and Jackson Rivers had just bought their first home, a fixer-upper nestled on the edge of an old forest. It was the kind of place they dreamed about, secluded, peaceful, surrounded by trees that whispered in the wind. They moved in late September and spent most of October renovating. By November they were finally settled. That's when things got strange. It began with tapping on the windows, soft, rhythmic, like fingers drumming lightly against the glass. At first they thought it was animals, maybe branches in the wind. But the taps would happen only at night, and always in threes. Jackson set up cameras but they never caught anything. One night, Emily was reading in bed while Jackson slept beside her. It was just after 3 a.m. when she heard the tapping. But this time it was coming from the second-story window. She froze, heart pounding. Their bedroom was on the top floor, with no balcony or ledge. She quietly approached the curtain and peeked outside. Nothing. Just darkness and swaying trees. The next night the tapping came again. Jackson heard it too. He grabbed a flashlight and went outside, circling the house, but he found no signs of animals or anyone near the windows. The ground beneath was undisturbed. The real horror came a week later. Jackson had gone on a business trip, leaving Emily alone for the weekend. She was in the living room when the power went out. The generator didn't kick in. The only light came from her phone, which was at 9%. As she moved toward the basement to check the circuit breaker, her phone buzzed. Text. It was from Jackson. But he never texted her when he flew. He knew she worried during his flights. The text read, "I see you." Confused and unnerved, she texted back, "What do you mean?" No reply. Then the tapping started again. This time it was from multiple windows. She backed into the kitchen, holding her phone light out like a shield. Another text came. "You shouldn't have looked outside." At that moment, she felt something brush past her leg. She screamed, turning the phone light downward. Nothing was there. She ran upstairs, locked herself in the bedroom, and called the police. When they arrived, they found no signs of forced entry. But the windows, every single one, had handprints smeared across them, all from the outside, and all too high for any normal person to reach without a ladder. When Jackson returned, he checked his phone history. He hadn't sent any texts that night. His phone had been in airplane mode the entire time. They sold the house within a month. Down in Louisiana, Trey Mitchell worked as a long-haul truck driver, known for taking late-night runs no one else wanted. He preferred the solitude, the long roads, and the chance to think without distraction. One foggy night in January, he was driving through a rural highway just south of Alexandria when he saw her, a woman in a long white dress standing by the side of the road, waving frantically. Her face was streaked with tears, and she looked like she'd been running. Trey pulled over, concerned. As she approached, she seemed hesitant but desperate. "Please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need help. My car. My husband. We crashed in the woods." He opened the passenger door. "Hop in. I'll call for help." She nodded and got in, clutching her arms tightly across her chest. Trey offered her a blanket and handed her his phone, but she just stared at it. "I don't know the number," she mumbled. He started driving, asking her for more details, but her responses were vague, like she couldn't remember. She kept glancing into the mirrors, as if she was afraid something was following them. After about 10 minutes, Trey looked over, and she was gone. The passenger seat was empty. The blanket still sat folded, untouched. He swerved, pulling over in disbelief. He searched the cab, checked outside, shouted her name into the trees. Nothing. She had vanished. Shaken, he drove to the nearest gas station and told the clerk what happened. The man behind the counter went pale. "That stretch of road. Happens every few years. A woman in a white dress. Always alone. Always vanishes." He pulled out a newspaper clipping from under the counter. It was from 1997. A couple had crashed off that same highway. The wife's body was never found. Trey left the station, heart pounding, wondering if what he saw was real or some elaborate hallucination. But when he checked his dashcam later that night, the footage showed the woman clearly getting into the truck. Her face, her dress, her trembling hands. And then, midway through the video, she simply faded out, like mist in the morning sun. These stories, shared in hushed tones and midnight whispers, echo the strange truth that not everything seen in the dead of night can be explained away. Some moments linger, hanging in the darkness, waiting for the next quiet hour to unfold. The next time you hear tapping at your window or see a figure standing at the side of a lonely road, maybe think twice before brushing it off as imagination. In the dead of night, the shadows sometimes walk with us.